Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Hertz Trade Group, and this is your end of day market recap for Monday, December 16th. And look at the moves today that we're going to talk about in this video. We'll talk a bit about what the quantum stocks are doing, quantum computing, that's all the rage, drone stocks, because drones are all over the place, not just now in New Jersey, but more and more sightings going up in drones. And I don't know if that's related exactly to drone stocks going up, but they certainly have a catalyst. Maybe if they're all coming from somewhere inside the United States, maybe that's why, business is going up, because they're flying all over the place. So we'll go over that. Crypto stocks also very strong. So all these pockets of strength, mostly coming in the growth areas of the market. So is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I'll talk a little bit about that. Risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving any advice or recommendations. Everything that we're talking about is for information purposes only. So yes, when I, kind of look to compile my watch list every weekend, it is a lot of fun to trade growth stocks, and it's fun to trade these quantum computing stocks that I think one of them at one point was up like 80% today. I think it was either QU BS, but anyway, I'll go over those four charts with you. But I mean, it is, and I'm not complaining about the momentum that we're getting in this market. I mean, it certainly is something that you can capitalize on. One of the things that we do at Tribeca Trade Group is we look for those groups, and we look to capitalize on them. But what I also do too is, every day I look at the market as a whole and say, hey, is this exactly healthy? Is this not healthy? And then I make adjustments, right? It's not just much I'm going to fly the same way every day. For example, right? Now, I mentioned being like a pilot, right? Now, you're not going to fly the same way, right? So if you've got clear blue sky, right, and you're taking off, you're probably going to, there's a certain methodology and procedure that you're going to go with that might be different when you go up in a plane and there's all kinds of storms and there's wind, right? What do you do? Like as a pilot, do you just do the same exact thing when there's a blue sky as when you have stormy weather and winds whipping around? Probably not. And I think as a trader, there's a lot of comparisons between being a trader and being a pilot, and making sure that you're making adjustments. So for example, let's dig in. And I've got a couple different concepts. And this is not all bad, by the way. There's good stuff in here too. There's positive stuff that I'm going to get to as well. But let me just bring this up for you so that you could take a picture. And I talk about this quite a bit. Now, first of all, when I bring up the S&P new highs versus new lows, right? And you can look at the NASDAQ too, because it's not much prettier there, right? But you have 4-week new highs. Now, this will take some time to straighten itself out, but you only have 26 companies in the S&P, 500 names in the S&P that are making new highs today, and some of them are doing amazing. Tesla, CrowdStrike had a good day today, right? Costco is now back above, or closed almost back above 1,000. It didn't, what was it? Broadcom, Apple, right? Amazon, right? These names are doing really well. Google, which I'll try to talk about in a minute. Arista Networks, right? There's some good companies, and there's really names that are making enough moves. And it's right now, it's enough to me, it's enough to be in these names because they're making huge momentum. Now, take a look at the 4-week new lows. There's 31%, so 154. So bottom line is, when this is going on, it generally is a little bit harder to be a stock picker, because you do have to kind of simplify what you're doing, right, and focus on the names and those few areas. You can't really go outside the names that I mentioned. The quantum stocks, the crypto names, the drones, right? Aerospace type names too, as well as select areas of semis and select areas of AI. If you go out of those groups, you're not going to like your results right now. And that's kind of what it is. Now, if you're comfortable, like if that's where you want to set up tent and say, hey, I'm content with being in those areas, then you're doing quite fine. But I think what I particularly do is I try to take profits in those names, because some of those names are getting very overbought. Let's go through a couple. So let's talk about the quantum names first. But yes, here's the S&P. It's kind of struggling a little bit. It's going sideways. I don't want to, that's not the right word. Struggling is not the right word. Maybe struggling to take out new highs, but it's going sideways, right? So you've got that going on, the S&P. You've got IWM, which had a green candle today. Congratulations, because that's the first green candle that we've seen in this in a while. RSP, right, is down. I think that's 11 red candles in a row for the equally weighted S&P. So it just, again, tells you more stocks are going down than up. All right. And here's the Qs, which are doing wonderfully. Now, if you're in the Qs, you're not complaining at all, right? You're doing very well. This is up 1.4%. Here's just a couple other ways to kind of slice and dice this. Here's QQEW, which is the equally weighted, same stocks, but equally weighted aren't doing quite as well. And here's the junior, the wrong one. It's QQQJ maybe. Um, Also, okay, right? And not really being able to turn the corner. So let's go through a couple. So that's to quickly just give you a sense of what's going on there. I also want to show you just the tale of two markets. Here's growth, and this is mainly a large cap growth ETF. It's not covering the small caps, but here's the difference between growth and value. Right, you got a lot of stocks that are getting beaten up pretty hard right now. So let's talk about some of these names. And at this point, whether or not you think they're entry points. Here's Google. Now, Google, I got long towards the end of last week. I think this was Wednesday. I got long on this day. I captured this. I missed the first move, no doubt about it. I missed the first nice pop outside of the value area for the month. But I got involved right in the beginning of the day on this day, and then I added to it actually on Friday. Let's see if I can bring this up for you really quickly. All right, so you can see what I'm saying here, just just so that you see. Here's Friday. See, you can see I did add to it at 192. So I took advantage of the dip, and then I added to it. So this obviously Google has many other businesses, but the quantum computing announcement of their chip has been the catalyst for this stock to really get going. So let's go through and look at a few of the other names in the space. IONQ is kind of interesting. When that was announced, it actually sold off, but look at it, very strong, closed on the highs. Again, this is a very volatile name. I find it hard to kind of keep big positions in this stuff, but because I feel like you really have to keep an eye on them. Here's a case in point. RGTI got very close to this upside VPOC at right around $10, and then look at where it closed. All the way down, and it's down a decent amount. So again, it's tough to really hold these names. Here's QUBT. Right, also took out this upside VPOC. Right, so again, it's hitting some overhead supply right around $12, and I think yeah, I mean, I would watch to see what it does. It may set up again. Maybe it has an inside day tomorrow, right? That would be something to take a look at. Here's QBTS. This is one that I traded last week, and we've been seeing call activity in these names. That's what got me in the name, and I was a little bit early because the stock began to sell off. I think I got into it right around here, and the stock sold off. $3 stock, and I'm like, I think I got in at 428, as a matter of fact. And it sold off a good put. It sold off about 30 cents on me, which is a good percentage for a stock that trades a stock that trades $4. But again, this is what's going on, right? So that's these four stocks, right? Here's ACHR, which again, I kind of had a feeling that the drone names were going to do well today. USMC, this is a name that was announced a couple. Whoops, that's the wrong symbol. That must be a value stock. That one's going down. I'm just kidding. This is Unusual Machines. This is one, I think it was Donald Trump Jr. was announced that he's on the advisory board. This is what caused this pop, and then it kind of settled back in. So again, as long as we're getting these types of setups, it's pretty darn good. And then Broadcom really got some of the semis to get going, right? So this is very nice. I think at this point, some consolidation would help, and maybe some profit taking. Same thing with Marvell, which I view, again, these stocks move quick. This stock was at 108, is at now at 124. So if you've been participating in these things, there's definitely profits to take. Rocket Labs, which is a name that I got long last week, had nice move and nice follow through today. What's the other one that I was going to mention? Reddit, also a name that I got long last week. These were in the midday note for you on Friday, both Rocket Labs and Reddit. So both of those names did well today. So, as we go through, there's plenty of other names to go through. Again, here's my watch list, right? And you could see how many names, did very well. I think I covered the majority of them. ACHR, IONQ, App, and Asan. And there's your pockets of strength in software right now. Now, again, if we look at the overall software ETF, right? It's been kind of a little bit stagnant because you've had a couple names that have not reported great earnings. Oracle, or not had a great earnings reaction. Oracle is one of them, and there's been a couple other like Adobe as well. And but this group has been I don't want to say struggling, but just consolidating a little bit, consolidating previous gains, right? So that's AppLovin, and then Asan, which everybody seems to really take to right now. Has broken out of this little consolidation here. And again, look at the move up 14%. So again, this is some great acting stocks, no doubt about it. What else do I have on my list? This is my weekend watch list, by the way. Hood, I mentioned the crypto space, right? I got long hood today. It did take out this VPOC, so I wouldn't be surprised if it steps back from this. But there's another VPOC up here about 12% above. And that's why I took two targets in this name today too. Just fully aware that there's overhead supply in that name. And then RCAT, which I don't know if this name reported after the close today, but that was huge on the partnership with Palantir that they had. Dave is another one. So fintech is another area that's showing great strength. I've left that one out. I participated in a lot of this stuff today because, hey, a lot of things triggered. So I kind of had to move quickly with some of these names to get involved in them. I also have Square on the list, although Square didn't trigger. And I did also get long Affirm today, which is down in the after hours because they had an offering, convertible stock offering. So I don't think they're down that much. They're kind of coming back here from the lows. So that's good. But that's where your strength is right now. And again, these are all growth stocks. If this is that, you may be loving this, right? One other thing, so my point is, so if we get to this, right? Go back to my here's my watch list that I've got here for its relative strength, weakness, and it's kind of momentum. But take a look at how many of these areas are breaking down, right? There's a whole heck of a lot of them, right? Now tech, what's strong? Tech, consumer discretionary, communications, right? And then semis now showing some strength. So when you add those names in there, when you add these groups and you think about how many of them in a market cap weighted index like the SPX, that's roughly, I think, about 60% of the index. So that is why, even though there's a lot of areas that are breaking down, that is why, you're seeing what's going on. Now, is this sustainable? To some extent. I mean, we're going to see how that goes along if it's sustainable. But what usually happens is usually institutions, once things go vertical, they begin to take profits in some things. So that's where I think the kind of the cautionary tale comes in, is that when you're dealing with only a few groups like this, they will eventually get hit hard once they begin to see some profit taking and a movement into value stocks. Because make no mistake, right? Eventually, you're going to see this get bought, right? And it's just a matter of cheap versus expensive. So it's good to have a game plan to say, what are you going to buy when some of the growth names get rotated out of? Because it will happen, right? It's a matter of time. Now, can I tell you what day? No, I can't tell you what day. And that's where I talked about in the beginning of this video, making adjustments. What are some of the adjustments that I do when we have strong breath versus weaker breath, which is what we have now? Well, I tend to hold less positions. I just put this on Twitter a little while ago. I definitely hold less positions. When we have really strong breath and we've got areas where like the financials and industrials and biotech doing really well, I can broaden out my exposure, right? And back about a month ago, I was holding about over 15 swing trade positions because they were working really well, right? And I had a huge November by doing that. Now, what you do is you dial down some of your exposure. I'm not holding that many swing trades, and I'm also taking a little bit smaller positions, especially in these quantum names as well, right? To me, that's how I make my adjustments. Now, okay, so I've talked about, just kind of what the market is giving us right now, and also the VIX was up today, and the S&P was up. That's also not the best sign. So again, does it mean I'm going to sell all my positions? No, absolutely. But it means I'm going to really be watching things closely because the market gets, in my opinion, gets more vulnerable when it's fewer and fewer horses that are pulling a cart. All right. All right. So one thing I thought that was pretty positive for the day, positive development is what's going on with Nvidia, because Nvidia has been not the recipient of what's this momentum right now in the market. There's some profit taking going on in Nvidia, and they're going into some sexy areas of the market, right? Broadcom mentioned that they're working with Apple, right? That's a positive for Broadcom, and that's kind of a negative for Nvidia. This quantum stuff for now is probably like is unless they have something in that space is probably a little bit of a negative. But what is nice about this is for a while you could see that the NASDAQ or the Qs were basically going in lockstep with Nvidia, right? Not perfectly, right? But there was what's called a higher correlation with this. Now, notice what's happening recently. The market is not caring about Nvidia anymore, which I view as a good thing, right? Same thing as what I was just talking about with like fewer horses pulling the carts. It's the same thing. Like you don't like, in my opinion, we don't want to just be watching one stock that's going to dictate the market. So there's a silver lining here. The market is not moving as much. It's uncorrelated. Now, I had I always get these questions on Twitter, and I get it. Retail traders, they love rules. They love to hear, okay, this happens, X happens. That means Y is going to happen. So somebody asked me on Twitter, and again, this is no fault to this person. This is a very good question. They're like, okay, so that means when Nvidia goes down, the Qs are going to go up, and when Nvidia goes up, the Qs are going to go down. Like, no, that's not the way. That's not the way it happens, right? It means that Nvidia is becoming less correlated with the Qs. That's all. It means the relationship of the Qs being following what Nvidia is doing because it's so heavy into AI stocks is not as dependent anymore. So please, I understand retail traders, they love to have these rules because they think they can kind of figure out the market, but that's not the way it works. But I think overall, what the takeaway is here is the AI component, that the market was so dependent on, is becoming a little bit less dependent on. So again, very good day overall. In terms of watching these names, just keep on your toes, right? As more names are falling than there are going up, right? I'm not saying that's a market warning or anything like that. I just tend to make adjustments just as a pilot who's flying through stormy weather does versus clear skies, right? It's just all about there's more stocks going down now versus up. All right, guys, have a great night. See you tomorrow. Oh, and don't forget to tune into Pre-Market Prep. That starts every day at 8 o'clock. You can find that on YouTube. I also broadcast it right from my Twitter page. Have a great night, all.